rivals go head-to-head this weekend when the Pirates face the Cubs at Wrigley.
Swing and a miss. He stuck him out.
The pregame at 3 Eastern, first pitch at 4. Saturday on ESPN Radio and the new ESPN app. ESPN Radio. This is the Thundering Herd Podcast.
It's the Herd on ESPN Radio. Wherever you may be, however you may be listening, thanks for making us part of your day. Presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our guests via the Subway Fresh Take Hotline, simulcast on ESPNU. Great to be here today. I'm not an allergy sufferer, but I mean the pollen in the air where I live right now. I have such, sympathy for anybody going that's an allergy sufferer, because I can't breathe and I don't suffer from it. I mean, I was sneezing all day yesterday. I'm like, what about these poor people who are allergy sufferers? I'm not. This is only the first or second time in my life I even noticed it. All the cars in Connecticut look like they're covered in popcorn butter. It's just every car's like green, oily. It's incredible. So, you know how there's always been that kind of saying in life, some girls you marry and some girls you date. I'm sure women say it too. Some guys you date. They're fun. You don't want to take them home to mom. Women probably say the same thing we do. There's always been that thing we say about cities, like there's great cities to visit, and then there's cities you live in. I used to live in Portland, Oregon. I wouldn't say it's the most exciting city to visit. Great place to live. New Orleans is more fun to visit. New York City, Vegas, Orlando, those are great visit cities. Living in them, it depends. A lot of people wouldn't. Portland was a great place to live in. I don't know if I'd pick it as my favorite, if I'd never been there, I wouldn't say, got to go to Portland. But living, it was great. I sometimes I think what ESPN has done to sports, we confuse great players with guys who have great moments. Rudy Gay is always one of those guys for me. He had great moments, not a great player. But you watch ESPN, we edit down the highlights. Oh, boy, Rudy Gay. Woo. Some of those general managers in the NBA, I'm like, are you watching the game? For the early parts of Blake Griffin's career, first couple years, he wasn't a great player. He had great moments. He couldn't shoot. And I'll tell you something. There are two guys in this NBA everybody calls great players. And I've always said, no, sorry, I don't buy it. They have great moments. Carmelo Anthony and Derrick Rose. You tell me what Derrick Rose does that makes him a great player. Is he a great shooter? No, he's not. The last 10 games, he's shooting 37%. Is he a great defender? No, he's not. Great distributor? No, he's not. Is he a great leader? Yeah, remember when he said when he had a chance to befriend LeBron James and bring him to Chicago, not my job to do it. Want to know who a leader is? D. Wade, who said, why don't you come down for a couple weeks? Families get together. That's why D. Wade's got rings. D. Wade's a leader. Okay, Chicago, once again, in the crosshairs, in the crisis. I mean, it's all setting up for him. J.R. Smith suspended the first two games. Kevin Love's out. Kyrie Irving's hurt. LeBron's gimpy and in a massive shooting slump. David Blatt's trying to give the series away, the Cleveland coach. Where's the great player? Oh, he's shooting 7 of 24, 29%. Where's the great player? 6 years in the NBA. Guard, still can't shoot a jumper. Hot, cold, great moments from Derrick Rose. Melo's got great moments. Plays one end of the floor. Where's he at in crisis? Never been in great shape. There's a big difference. ESPN, and we're guilty of this, but it's also our business, so we shouldn't shed any tears over this. We create highlights. So busy people who can't watch the game get a feel for the game. We have anchors, male, female. They read the highlights, and it makes it feel like you watch the game, but you didn't watch the game. And if you watch the game, Rudy Gay's not a great player. He's a great talent, and he has great moments. I said this morning. I think Kyrie Irving is a great player. Well, how can you say that? Because he is a great shooter. Not good, great. 42% on threes. Has the best-looking jump shot, in my opinion, in the league. Perfect form. He is a great ball handler. He has a super high IQ. Great. AAA. IQ, shooter, ball handler, AAA. A little fragile. I'll acknowledge that. That's why he's not the best in the league at his position. But even Tom Thibodeau, great. Hear Tom Thibodeau talking about Kyrie Irving last night? Great. Listen to him.
Are you surprised how productive he was given all the injuries he's had over the last couple of days?
No. And I've said this before. In this league, great players always have the ability to play great, no matter what ailments they have.
Great.
And you can never let your guard down against them.
No, not Kyrie.
You see it all the time.
Yeah.
Guys nicked up, hurt, and goes out there and has a huge night.
Yeah.
That's what makes them great.
I think that was 3 greats by the rival coach. This morning I sat down, because everybody thinks I hate John Wall, right? And so I said to myself, I'm going to rank point guards in the NBA. I'm a general manager, and I'm going to rank point guards. Now, it should be noted in my point guard evaluation, 2 things matter to me. Only really 2 things matter to me. Number 1, are you a playmaker? And I jump passing, scoring. Are you a complete playmaker? Okay, part of that's field goal percentage. You make plays when they go through the basket, all right? So are you a playmaker? And number 2, what's your IQ? What's your self-awareness? What's your court awareness? So are you a playmaker? Do you get the ball in the basket as a shooter, as a distributor? Get the ball in the basket as a playmaker? And what's your IQ? Do you have a sense of like a quarterback on the court? Number 1, I put Chris Paul. Distributor, scorer, tough, high IQ. Number 2, Steph Curry. Unbelievable, profound score, high IQ, kind of an average defender. Number 3, I put Kyrie Irving. Way higher than everybody on this staff. Profound offensive talent. Super high IQ. Westbrook at 4, mega talent. Doesn't always play smart. John Wall at 5, he's pretty good at everything. He's a pretty good defender, pretty good distributor, pretty good scorer. He's pretty good at everything. Damian Lillard 6, Mike Conley 7, Tony Parker 8. And I got to be honest. I wrestled with Jeff Teague, Kyle Lowry, and Derrick Rose. And I'm not sure Derrick Rose is in my top 10. I'm serious. I put him 10. Kyle Lowry's tougher, plays on both ends, limited offensively. But he's there, playing hard, in your face. Derrick Rose, in my opinion, and Carmelo Anthony, there are great moments. They are massively overstated as great players. Heard brought to you by Regis. New way to work. Call 1-800-OFFICES, 1-800-OFFICES. Good stuff today. Now, in my NBA point guard rankings, there was great dissension on the staff. But it's called the Herd, not the Stanzik. So I got to lead the show with my opinions. I'm told some experts from ESPN disagree with me. Whatever experts means. Oh, so you saw every NBA game played live this year. Big whoop.
You're in the Herd, the Thundering Herd podcast.
All guests on the Herd appear on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline.
A Colin quote, the Herd.
I actually wear a T-shirt because I sweat. I sweat like Paris Hilton at a spelling bee. So that's a bad line. One of my better ones. Here's all the Derrick Rose fans. And again, I don't want to be anecdotal. I don't want to be that guy who brings out after a bad night Derrick Rose. But I've been saying this for years. Last 23 minutes of the game last night, Rose had no points, 0 for 11, 0 for 3 on threes, and no free throws. Couldn't get to the line. There's your great player. He has great moments. He's not a great player. He has great moments. You tell me what he's great at. He is a dynamic talent. What is he? Now, Russell Westbrook, similar to Rose, can get hurt, but he is a great finisher at the rim. He's a great scorer. He's a great finisher. I'll take Westbrook over. I barely put Derrick Rose in my top 10 point guards. Patrick Beverley is a great defender. Great. I don't think the difference between Patrick Beverley and Derrick Rose is much. I think the gap between Chris Paul and Derrick Rose is a mile. So fired up. So I don't like to get people fired. And I'm not getting this person fired, but I'm glad they're getting fired. I'm not a big fan of hecklers because I once went to a Jerry Seinfeld. I saw Jerry Seinfeld 3 times live. I've seen him once in New York, once in Vegas, and once in Portland, Oregon. And he was very, very good in all 3. He was really good in Portland and really good in New York. So I'm not a big fan of hecklers. You know, like you go and watch a comedian, you pay 100 bones for a comedian, and there's a Rudy in the front row. Hey, Jerry, hey. Hey, Meatball. I paid for Jerry, not you. Be quiet. So I don't like hecklers to begin with. Several fans outside of Toronto's FC Stadium were giving a sports reporter crap. Her name, Sunday, Shauna Hunt. And she's a reporter in Toronto for something called City News. They report on news in the big city. City News. And all these guys, because they're meatballs, and this is what young men do, were shouting sexually explicit comments into her mic. So these are people with jobs who work with women and were shouting sexually explicit comments into a mic. She stopped her on-air report to confront the hecklers, and she later posted the video clip online. Good for her. Now Hydro One, that's another company there in Toronto. Sometimes City News, who covers news in the city, talks about Hydro One, who is one company that's doing hydro all the time. The employer, Hydro One, employs one of those knucklehead guys.
You're fired.
They fired him. See, here's the thing for all you young Sparkies out there. I want to be famous. I'm on Tumblr and Vine and Facebook. Look at me, look at me, look at me. No talent. Look at me, look at me, look at me. Didn't put the time in. Look at me, look at me, look at me. We're looking at you.
You're fired.
I have no real talent. Look at me, look at me, look at me. Tumblr, Vine, Facebook, Twitter.
You're fired.
Yeah. See, that's the downside. That's the downside. You want to get noticed? The bad news is you got noticed. Love it. Everybody to some degree now is a public figure. If you're employed, you're a public figure. So Facebook and Twitter and Vine and Tumblr and Instagram. Hey, check out my Keek. I'm hilarious on Tinder.
You're fired.
Yeah, you're fired, meatball. Hey, you're pretty funny on Instagram. Yeah. Yeah, Insta-gone, not Instagram.
Why don't you settle down with your old man dad voice in there, okay?
Yeah.
You're
Why don't
scaring
you put in the time in the minor leagues? 14 years minor league baseball.
It should be noted they were trying to use the line Jameis Winston used in the cafeteria.
Yeah, they're idiots. So if you're employed and you want to be a big deal on Tinder, know now that you're a public figure. We're all a public figure. We're all public figures if you're employed. So that's the duality of life, that you can't be a jerkball and have sexually explicit comments to a woman. You guys are going to eventually have, you had moms, you'll have sisters. Would you really do that to your sister? Do you think your mom would approve? You're idiots. Really, your mom's okay with that. You do that to your sister. What a bunch of creeps. I want to get more fired. Can you give me the video? Can I post it on the air? Can you get me more of the video?
You're fired.
I mean, seriously, don't you guys have moms? Would you call your mom that? Paul, you're in the herd on ESPN Radio. Go ahead.
Yeah, the one I wanted to say is the reason Derrick Rose is not the Hall of Fame player is because he doesn't make players better. Michael Jordan made players better. LeBron James makes players better. You can't see Derrick Rose in practice saying, Hakeem, no, you do this on this set. I'm going to pass the ball to you here on the baseline. Bill Wennington, on the 18-foot jumper whenever Jordan in the 1998, he didn't miss that shot. He told Steve Kerr, you post up here, I'm going to hit you on the wing there. You set up a three. Derrick Rose don't make players better.
Well, the other thing,
you can't see him doing it in practice.
Well, here's the other thing, Paul. You know how you hear people say, hey, I lead by my actions. No, leaders have to talk. That's an old cliche for guys like that didn't like to talk, like our fathers. Yeah, I lead by actions. That's the 70s. You have to communicate now. Sometimes digitally. Got to open your mouth and talk there. Derrick Rose had an opportunity to befriend LeBron James. D-Wade, a leader, befriended LeBron James. By the way, have you noticed that LeBron, when he's been in the league, have you noticed what LeBron does? This is what leaders do. He's good friends with Durant and Wade and Kyrie. Why? Because he wants to play with them. Remember what Derrick Rose said when an opportunity was afforded to maybe call LeBron James? Remember what he said? It's not my job. It is your job as a leader of a franchise to accumulate talent. LeBron is always looking to elevate the franchise. befriend players. D. Wade's done that his whole career. Dwayne Wade, his entire career, is making friends and allies through the league. That's what leaders do. LeBron ditched the headband. I want to be more like my guys. That's what you do. This whole thing about I don't talk, I let my actions lead. So our president should be mute. We should just have our president shouldn't talk. I'll tell you what, Stanzik doesn't like this show today.
Well, you're pretty convenient leaving out the fact that LeBron's friends with Melo. Also pretty convenient about the fact where LeBron's posting pictures on Instagram to exclude one of his teammates. But that's your show. It's fine.
You're fired.
Yeah, you're fired. Kevin Love's aloof. He doesn't get, Kevin Love is aloof. He is. He always has been.
Oh, so you ostracize him. That's good. Good idea. Good teammate.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
So yesterday, Bobby Bowden, who's like 85. And, once people are like 85, you got to give them a little break. I'm not trying to be mean, but Bobby Bowden's 85 years old, okay? He takes probably like 4 naps a day. When you're 85 years old, you got to give guys a little bit of a break. So yesterday, play the bite. Apparently, people were upset with Bobby Bowden because Bobby Bowden, former Florida State coach, was talking about Jameis Winston and used a word that nobody liked.
I think it's a consensus among Florida State fans and boosters that he was an embarrassment in a lot of ways to the university. He won a lot of ball games, probably one of the best football players that ever attended Florida State, but he hurt himself off the field, and the good news is he's young enough to get over that. He just can't make those junior high school decisions that he made when he was in college.
The word he used that got people riled up was embarrassment. And in our business, when you interview people, there are certain things they call like passion words or trigger words. Like people are asking now with Tom Brady, do you think he's a cheater? Well, the trigger word isn't you or did or think. It's cheater. You're trying to get somebody to say, yeah, Tom's a cheater. He wouldn't have said that word if I didn't offer it in the question. Blogs do this to get clicks. Newspapers do this for you to read the story. Sometimes your local news team, they'll have, cancer, death, crash over the anchor's shoulder. They're trigger words. They're used to bring you in. So what I'm saying with Bobby Bowden, which was lost on the story yesterday, and nobody actually, again, does their homework. Paul Feinbaum, who I like, and don't make this into a controversy, but Paul Feinbaum used embarrassment in the question to Bobby Bowden. And in my opinion, Bobby wouldn't have used embarrassment if it wasn't used in the question. Feinbaum said, many people felt like he was an embarrassment to your great university. And then Bobby Bowden said, well, I think it's a consensus. He was an embarrassment to the university. I don't think if you'd ask him, what's your opinion on Jameis, he would have said, he's an embarrassment to the university. Now, I can see already my team is like, ooh, you're ripping Feinbaum. I'm not.
No, you're not ripping Feinbaum, but you're leaving out like 3 sentences that he said in between saying embarrassing and then actually asking an open question. I agree Bowden wouldn't have said the word embarrassing without Feinbaum saying it, but you're kind of glossing over some stuff too.
Well, yes, Feinbaum asked a long question, but to prove my point with trigger words, I'm going to read Paul Feinbaum's question out of order. So I'm going to read all the words out of order. Tell me which one to you is the word that makes some people uncomfortable. National, night, there, discipline, greatest, crab, thoughts, embarrassment. Embarrassment's the big word. It's called a trigger word, a passion word, an urgency word. And so when Bobby Bowden answered it, yes, I think he's an embarrassment, I don't think he would have said that if it was not in. And for the record, I've done this before. We have a guy that comes to ESPN, he works here, and he tells you not to ask questions like that. And I once had to punch him in the forehead because I think he's totally wrong. I like to lead my guests into the troubled swamp, Yeah, I like to paint my guests into a corner as often as I can. I used to argue with this guy. I'm like, why do I have to ask open-ended questions? Why can't I just shove my guy into a boysenberry prickly bush once in a while? I mean, sometimes when you're interviewing OJ after the OJ thing, you're like, did you do it? That's a legitimate question. It's not open-ended. Did you do it? So I think sometimes pushing and nudging, like Jeff Saturday, I was trying to get in all sorts of trouble this morning. I couldn't do it, but I tried. So, what in the hell is that sound effect? You keep playing that thing. What is that?
That's Jeff Saturday.
That's Jeff Saturday?
Yeah, from the interview.
Let me hear it again. So all I'm saying is Feinbaum was leading the interviewer into embarrassing, and Bobby was fulfilling Feinbaum's request, and he said embarrassing. So it's a fake controversy, and you see this all the time. But it was like a big deal yesterday. 85-year-old man said Jameis is embarrassing. Well, read the question. Not to mention, DJ is going to make a point on this. DJ, you're in the herd. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to get your opinion on this. Taking the whole embarrassing thing out of the situation, did you agree with what he said as far as the assessment? Jameis was great, but he was embarrassing.
Yes, that's the other thing, is that he was embarrassing. Crab legs, allegation of sexual misconduct, the vulgarity. Yes, he was embarrassing, but...
Right, do you believe that Bobby Bowden felt that way?
I don't think Bobby would have used the word.
I didn't ask that. You think he felt that way?
Yes, Bobby.
All right, then why is it a fake controversy if you believe that he felt that?
Well, but the people are getting worked up because I think Bobby has a little more tact than he would say. It's unfortunate. Embarrassing is a pretty hard word for the most popular guy in the history of the school to say. But Paul asked the word embarrassing, so he echoed and he fulfilled Paul's request to say it.
Yeah, but if he meant it, and you believe that he meant it, then it is a legitimate news story. It's not an embarrassment.
It's semantics. The point is...
You're just ripping Feinbaum. That's all you're doing.
Hey, Van Pelt's out of here now. I got to get Feinbaum out of here. I'm going to rule the world! That's my goal. That's my goal. Somebody slash Levitard's tires coming to work today. I got Van Pelt out of here. Feinbaum, I got to make him look bad. But the story is like, oh, my God, did you see Bowden? What Bowden said, the question leading up was, is Tom Brady a cheater? And if you said yes, people would say, can I call him a cheater? Well, I'm leading you into that. That's why a lot of times you'll hear people say, well, that's kind of a loaded question. I'm on an island here. It's like Lord of the Flies. Okay.
And that was today's enormously fake controversy.
I still think you guys are up. I still think, what's funny, I ranked the point guards based on a lot of different things. In the NBA, and right now there are so many good point guards in the NBA. I mean, the fact that I have like Damian Lillard and Tony Parker like 6 and 8, those are high-end players. If I rank point guards in the NBA, not just based on Derrick Rose last night, Chris Paul 1, Steph Curry 2, Kyrie Irving 3, Westbrook 4, John Wall 5. Everybody here is like, that's way too high on Kyrie Irving. I'm telling you right now, he isn't in his prime yet, and he is dropping 50-point games regularly. You guys, you just don't get it. And by the way, where did I have John Wall, who I purportedly hate? I have John Wall 5th. John Wall is pretty good at everything. He's a pretty good distributor, pretty good scorer, pretty good defender. He's got a little girth and size. He's thicker than Derrick Rose. I like John Wall. Wouldn't build my franchise around him, but I'd build my franchise around Steph Curry and Chris Paul. Definitely. Look at this. That was a low blow to Scott Van Pelt. No, Scott and I are friends. That wasn't not a low blow. By the way, drop an enormously fake controversy for that, too. Can you do that?
And that was today's enormously fake controversy.
From Craig Zielinski in Scranton, PA. You're just bored out of your mind in Scranton. Scott and I are friends.
Colin Cowherd.
The Thundering Herd Podcast.
Movie Entourage. When's that thing come out? June 3rd? You know what? I watched 4 years of Entourage, and I thought it was, again, it's a little cotton candy. I mean, it was entertaining. There's not that many shows I've really watched and been totally loyal to. 30 Rock I watched. Everybody, Sopranos guy, totally. Curb Your Enthusiasm. House of Cards is really good. I think a lot of them, like Mad Men was overstated, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones. I keep hearing about all these. I give them a chance. First of all, it's personal taste. Game of Thrones production's probably 10 times what Entourage is, but Entourage, I like L.A. and I think it's funny, and it was just kind of a hipster. Game of Thrones is goblins and, dragons and stuff. I'm not into that stuff. I like reality. I have no interest in thrones, and groans, and I don't even know Game of Thrones. What does that even mean? What's the thrones mean? I don't even know what it means.
Like a king sits on a throne? Come on.
It's a game of kings, I know what a throne is.
Everyone trying to get the throne.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh, okay.
It's pretty self-explanatory. A man of your intellect, I'm kind of surprised you couldn't put that together.
I know what a throne is, but
Do you?
Yeah, it's what Tom Brady sits on after winning another Super Bowl. I know what
he's going to be sitting somewhere for the first 4 games.
Game of Thrones, I didn't know what that meant. I'm not going to watch that. There's no way in the world. I saw like a half an episode, and I saw goblins and things flying through the air and sorcerers. I'm not into that stuff at all. Sound like an old man. Call or click today. It's progressive. ESPN Radio is presented by him. It's basically musical chairs with lords and goblins. It's Harry Potter with swearing. I'm not into it. But you were asking me, so the staff said this morning, are you going to watch hockey tonight? Which the answer to that question is almost always no, unless it's during the Olympics. The Caps and the Rangers play Game 7 tonight. So I'll watch because it's Game 7, and I'm on in New York. Hockey is what it is. It's got a very, very loyal following. And there's a lot of sports fans who aren't hockey fans. Most hockey fans are sports fans. It's a niche following or a niche following, however you want to say that. And, I'll tune in tonight. I have nothing against hockey. I watch Olympic hockey. I'll watch Team USA or Team Canada. I think live, it's fantastic. There's 2 sports I think that are captivating live, hockey and college football, that the television doesn't do it justice. But it's not a sport I love. Boots Grass, Steve Levy, those guys grew up with it. Steve Levy owned a minor league hockey team. Those guys are totally into it. So Barry Melrose, a very nice guy, wears nice suits. So out of respect to his, haberdasher, I'll go and, watch the Game 7. It's not a sport I gravitate to. It's never you can't as a national host talk hockey.
Colin, you weren't here today. We had the cup in the studio. You would have loved it.
Yeah, it's a cup. Okay, it's just a cup.
Yeah, you say that because you weren't in its presence.
You know what? I'll say this about hockey. I like hockey players. I think they bust their arse. I think they're tough guys. I've covered a hockey team in Tampa. They work their tails off. I have so much respect for them. Like, I can totally respect what you do, but not be into it, or it's not good for my business. If I owned an Italian restaurant, and I wanted to be an upper-tier Italian restaurant, that's never going to happen, obviously, I wouldn't have spaghetti and meatballs. I could make it for you. I'm not going to put it on the menu. I'm not looking for the spaghetti and meatballs crowd. I'm trying to elevate it and charge $35 a plate or $28 a plate. So, but I can respect spaghetti and meatballs, but I'm not putting it on my menu. I respect hockey, and the people who cover it and the athletes who play it are in incredible shape. They're total grinders. Hockey guys are a riot. We used to have a guy at ESPN, Matt Barnaby, was one of my favorite guys here. But, Game 7s are fun because the intensity in the building is incredible. It's palpable. You can feel it through the television. So I'll watch it. But I'm not going to pretend outside of Ovechkin, who I think is – I know Lundqvist, the goalie for the Rangers, who's unbelievable. He's had series where he just stands on his head and he wins the series. And Ovechkin is – you know who Ovechkin reminds me of? Russell Westbrook. He's so aggressive. Sometimes you're like, dude, slow down. He is just you don't even have to know hockey. Ovechkin just jumps off the ice. You're like, who's that guy? Lindros, when he played in Philadelphia, could handle the puck so well. He was so massive. Sidney Crosby. You don't even have to know hockey, and you're like, I remember the first time I saw Wayne Gretzky play on television because Edmonton at the time, the NHL didn't have much of a TV contract. And, Edmonton's not a major market in North America. It's invisible mostly. And I remember the first time I saw Wayne Gretzky, and he was always like a pass ahead of everybody. Jason Kidd was a little bit like that when I watched him play in high school. I watched Jason Kidd play a high school basketball tournament in Vegas, and he was like a pass ahead of everybody. He was doing like full court bounce passes, and you're like, high school kids don't do that. There are players that you don't have to be an expert on hockey, and Ovechkin is such a Russell Westbrook wow talent. So, and by the way, New York is enthralled because every other team stinks. If the Knicks weren't a complete dumpster fire and we're right now in the playoffs, the Rangers, nobody'd care. I mean, the small, niche-y, hockey audience. But, right, let's be honest. The Jets are a mess, mostly. Not a bad team, but the quarterback situation's a mess. The Giants feel like they're rebuilding. The Mets have some good young pitchers. Yankees are overachieving. Knicks are a mess. So, the Rangers are a nice story for the city. The L.A. Kings get a bigger audience when the Lakers stink. That's the way cities work. You got Chicago, the Cubs stink, the White Sox stink, the Bears disappoint, the Blackhawks get more people. Boston, when the Celtics, the big three, weren't winning, all of a sudden the Bruins get a little bigger. Off year for the Red Sox. That's the way it works with hockey. Hockey has to find its little slots. And, if the Knicks were still playing right now and they were in a series against LeBron, you think they're on the back page? You think they're on the back page of the Daily News or the Post? No, the Knicks are all over the back page. You're not talking about the Rangers. So, there you go. I'm not anti-hockey. I'll watch tonight. It's not something. I'm not going to fake it on the air. I'm not going to pretend I'm a hockey guy. I'm not. I don't really,
So it'll be on one of your many TVs.
Yeah, I got a few TVs, and it'll be on one, and I'll watch it. I'm not going to talk about, goals against average tomorrow on the show. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to, sometimes in this business, guys try to pretend they watch everything. I don't. I didn't watch the second half of the Clippers-Rockets last night. I watched the first half. Clippers couldn't hit the broadside of a boat. Houston still didn't play any defense. It's just Redick and Crawford and Chris Paul couldn't hit shots, and the Clippers are going to go back home and win that series. I watched the entire Bulls-Cavs. Listen, if you think I'm going to break down the Conn Smythe Awards tomorrow or the Wales Conference President's Trophy, do yourself a favor. Don't listen to the show. It's not going to happen. Okay? But I'll watch it, okay? I'll give it a little. Nobody cares if I watch it. I don't even know why I wasted 5 minutes of your life on this, but I'll watch it.
Can you at least tweet about it once tonight?
Tweet about hockey?
Yeah, once.
I've never tweeted once in my life about hockey.
We'll go through the archives.
I don't tweet about hockey. I'm not tweeting about hockey. Okay, I'll do it right now. I'm going to tweet about hockey right now. Right now, I'm going to go to my Twitter account. This second. I'm going to direct this to Bujagrass. That guy, he knows hockey.
Yeah, hockey rules, use a Z, a lot of exclamation points.
Is that what hockey guy does? Okay, I'm going to do it right now. First time in the history of the show. I'm going to call my shot with Twitter. ESPN_Colin.
ESPN Radio.
With the action on the court, the diamond, or the gridiron.
Comes alive.
The NBA.
The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
Major League Baseball.
San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
The new college football playoff.
College football playoff national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
You're home for the best in sports play-by-play.
ESPN Radio.
Cost of houses, cost of everything's going up to a point where it's, amazing or discouraging, depending on where you're sitting in life. But, to each their own. This is our capitalistic system. If you like it, great. If it appalls you, what can I say? It just is what it is. So John Calipari is getting another extension at Kentucky, and his name is being lobbied about in regards to the Pelicans job, and he'll probably stay at Kentucky, and I understand that. But I always laugh at all these people. They get mad at these Nick Sabans and these John Caliparis. And how can they make so much money and the player makes nothing? Well, let me ask you this. Calipari and Saban are going to make $10 to $15 million a year at some point. It's going to happen. Are you going to be happy if the player makes $1,000 a week, the college player? This isn't about the college player getting paid. Let's be honest about this. You didn't care about that for the entirety of college sports. You started caring about 5 years ago when Nick Saban started making what you thought was grotesque money. Paying the athlete a pittance doesn't make the discrepancy better. So this isn't about paying the player. Slaves, indentured servants. This is now about coaches making money that you'll never make, and it bothers you. That's why taxes, 47% of the country doesn't pay any taxes, but they want the 1% to pay more. They don't pay any. This is about anger and anxiety and envy of Calipari and Saban's salary, not about paying the players. Because even if you paid every running back at UCLA $1,000 a week, if the coach is making $27 million a year, you're going to be outraged, and that's the market we're in. Calipari's getting offers left and right. Should he turn them down? Should he not get a raise? I mean, move to Norway if you're bothered by it. Go to Canada. They don't pay what we do. But in this country, if you are considered something great in finance or entertainment, people are going to offer you, and should you turn it down? I find this whole thing, it's not about paying the player. By the way, the Northwestern players had an opportunity to vote themselves into a union. And many are reporting they didn't vote pro-union. They liked their current situation. So the players aren't outraged as much as sometimes the critics are. Let's say you do pay the players. All of them, $1,000 a week. So Calipari now got a raise to $11 million a year. Why are you still bothered by it? It's not about the player getting paid. It's about being outraged by a white male often making a lot of money to coach a college sport. Get over it. That's the system we're in. There are real estate developers in this country. There are surgeons. There are the Kardashians. I don't even know what their talent is. I really don't. I think the family makes $200 million a year. It is what it is. I don't pay their taxes. I don't care. How do you know they're happier than you? May not be. But this whole thing, another example of Calipari's going to get another extension and another massive raise. So what? If Kentucky was asked, is he worth it? Everybody in Kentucky would say yes. The president of Alabama said Nick Saban's the best investment they've ever made. So stop all the critics. This is not about paying the student athlete. They never made $1 and you were okay with it. It's the last 5 years everybody now is suddenly outraged by the athlete, who in Chicago at Northwestern could have voted himself into a union and reportedly didn't. So the players aren't that outraged. Don't hate the player, hate the game. It's supply and demand. There's not that many Caliparis out there. Not many Nick Sabans and Urban Meyers out there. I mean, I find this fun. Oh, the poor players. You didn't talk about that once in the 70s and 80s and 90s. You didn't talk about it at all because coaches made, $300,000 a year what a good lawyer made or something. But now you just don't like that gap. Gap's bothering you. It's financial envy. Akil, you're in the herd on ESPN Radio. Go ahead.
Hey, Colin, I really appreciate you taking my call. I listen to you every day at lunch, and I feel like you offer a realist perspective than most people do in the media.
Cool.
But my question is, do you find in the future with all these college coaches getting a huge contract, do you think that eventually it'll get to a point where the college coach is just like, well, why don't we establish a $2 million fund that would just go specifically to students? That's what I want it spent on.
Well, like a portion of the coach's contract goes to the players?
Yes, sir. Like they established that in their contract written out with the college.
Well, I'll give you an example, Akil, that's interesting. A couple of years, that's probably about 5 years ago, I was talking to a business professor in the state of California, and he did business economics, he's like an economics 101 professor, and he had 2 thriving consulting businesses on the side and was making a fortune. But you didn't see his published salary. I got news for you. A lot of these professors have side jobs, side consulting businesses. The difference is their salaries and side jobs don't get published in the paper. They also have tenure. They don't work nearly as hard as Nick Saban. I think a lot of people on college campuses, a lot of professors and a lot of deans and a lot of people make a lot of money, but the football and basketball coaches' salaries get published. And those markets are driven by the fans and the president and the boosters. So we have all this animosity. If you have animosity toward Calipari, then you have animosity toward America. This is not about paying the players. You didn't talk about it for 75 years. Nobody ever talked about it. I've been doing sports radio for 30. It's become a hot button topic the last 5. The last 5, it's really gotten a lot of anxiety because now you see in the USA Today their salaries published, and it's classic. I just don't like that guy making a lot of money. People they don't like Roger Goodell. He makes $40 million. The league's worth $100 billion. He leads it. Who gives a rip what he makes? It has nothing to do with anything. That salary's voted on by the owners. So they think it's a reasonable salary. Why are you bothered by it? The owners pay him. They think it's a reasonable salary. That is too much. For who, you? Then why do you play the lottery? It's funny, isn't it, with poor guy? He plays the lottery. You know who plays the lottery? It's not rich people. You want to know who plays the lottery in America? Kind of sad, actually. The poorest people. They want the rich to pay taxes, but they play the lottery. Well, what's the reason behind that? That Goodell making $40 million is outrageous. Can I have 9 Powerball tickets? It's not outrageous when you make it, but it's outrageous for him who actually earned it, according to the owners. You know what it means? It's a healthy economy to somebody. If you can pay Calipari $8 million to coach a college basketball team, good for Kentucky. The horse farms must be business is good. Now here's another. Get the crying music here. I'm going to get very emotional. Casey, go ahead.
Hey, Colin. I just wanted to say really quick. Well, first of all, I love your show. You're like the only one that talks about sports and real life at the same time.
Thanks.
Legitimate stuff. I just wanted to say I don't care if the players get paid money, but the thing that upset me was when Shabazz Napier was talking about he didn't even have enough money to eat when they had won the championship that one year.
Yeah,
as long as they have enough money to eat food, just to,
let me tell you, Casey, that is such an overplayed. Shabazz Napier had all the food he wanted to. You ever seen the size of Wisconsin's offensive linemen? They didn't come from Ethiopia. You seen the size of these damn football players? They're all 340 pounds. They're not starving. They've got training tables. They eat better than cattle. God, if I have to hear it, the poor play. Have you seen the size of college football players? Ask any mother in this country what it's like to feed her 2 sons. Ohio State's got 40 guys that size, and then they've got the running backs and the receivers. Have you seen the size of USC's football players? Do they look like, at night, they're not getting a Cliff Bar and crying themselves to sleep? If only I had some crust from bread. Shabazz, you are starving in front of my eyes. Now give me a break. That power bar. Shabazz, have a crumb on my French bread. You are so weak and meager. Yeah. Want to look at my swag bag? I got $9,000 of headphones in here. Break. Players starving. God, those guys wear better jeans than I do. You guys ever see the way those college guys dress? They get drafted into the NBA. It's like, I don't have a suit that nice. That's amazing. You see Dante Flowers' shoes? That costs more than my mortgage. He's got like gold rims on his tennis shoes. Job well done brought to you by Napa Auto Parts. Stop by your local Napa Auto Parts store and conquer the job with Napa know-how.
That's for you. That was an outstanding rip there. Well done.
Am I right or am I right?
You're angry, and we love it.
Give me a break. Players starving. Do you know Wisconsin Badger football offensive line is bigger than the Packers? Bigger than the Packers. It's like 340. Hell, Brett Bielema was bigger than his offensive line. He ain't starving either.
Want more of the herd? The Thundering Herd Podcast.
It's between guys who have great moments, Rudy Gay, and guys who are great players. Anthony Davis, LeBron, ESPN Radio presented by Progressive, Test Drive Snapshot, even if you have insurance with another company. By the way, Ted Wells, who did the investigation on Deflategate, has come out, tired of all the criticism, and said 2 things yesterday. And Ted Wells said, number 1, Patriot locker room attendant Jim McNally referred to himself as the deflator, said Ted Wells, and in another message wrote, I'm not going to ESPN ... yet. Said Ted Wells. Nobody can ignore the implications of that text. It is not a joke, nor is it circumstantial. It is direct evidence, and it is unculpatory. Then he also said this regarding Brady's cooperation with his phone.
I told Mr. Brady and his agents I was willing not to take possession of the phone. I said, I don't want to see any private information. I said, you keep the phone. You, the agent, Mr. Yee, you can look at the phone. You give me documents that are responsive to this investigation, and I will take your word that you have given me what's responsive. And they still refused.
Sorry. I believe Ted Wells more than ever. If you called yourself the deflator, where am I supposed to go with that? If I have a text and you said, hey, I haven't gone to the media yet, where am I supposed to go with that? People tell you who they are. Believe them. And the second thing is he went to Brady's agent and Tom and said, okay, don't give me your phone. I'll let you just give me the texts regarding this case. And in both instances, where it was no longer a privacy issue, Brady and his agent said, no, we're not doing it. Then there was a third instance when he wanted to interview the McNally kid again. Listen to this.
The Patriots provided me, in my opinion, with substantial cooperation, except in one critical and crucial area. I wanted to do a second interview of Jim McNally. Jim McNally was the second Patriots person I interviewed. I wanted, after I had interviewed others, including Tom Brady, to do a second interview of McNally to put certain questions to him, and I had also discovered, after the first interview, one of the most important text messages, where Jim McNally not only calls himself the deflator, but says he has not gone to ESPN ... yet, which is akin, as far as I am concerned, to saying I have not gone to the media yet to report what I'm doing. And I had not found that text at the time of the first interview. I wanted to confront him with that. I asked for a second interview. I said I would go to New Hampshire. I would interview him in the morning, afternoon, night. I didn't care. I would make myself available whenever he was free. And not only did they say I couldn't interview him, they said they would not even tell him about my request for an interview. So on that particular point, which was critical to this investigation, they did not cooperate, and the report sets that out.
Remember what Bill Polian said to us a couple weeks ago. And this has been established in the NFL. Okay, it's been established over the last 10 years because they've had multiple investigations. This is what happens. And Polian told me, he said the one thing is when it comes to investigation, in fact, you have to sign a waiver these days. Don't obstruct, man. Don't obstruct.
There's a long-standing ethos in the league that when you are investigated for a infraction of some kind, that you have to be completely forthcoming.
And they weren't. 1 game for the deflation, 3 for the obstruction.
All right, Colin, we got something for you. We checked the archives. About an hour ago, we asked you if you're going to watch Game 7, the Capitals-Rangers. You said you would, but you also said this.
I've never tweeted once in my life about hockey.
All right, so we checked the archives. At ESPN_Colin, May 13th. I may not talk hockey much, but this Rangers-Pens Game 7 is intense. Great TV. Props to NBC.
I've never tweeted once in my life about hockey.
Watch 45 minutes of hockey. Fun. Stop waiting for someone else to promote you. Promote yourself. Wear our national ads. Tell your story.
I've never tweeted once in my life about hockey.
March 27th. Hanging with Jeff Farkas, former NHL stud, talking Frozen 4. See, I don't hate hockey.
I've never tweeted once in my life about hockey.
June 7th, 2014. Rangers-Kings is doing nothing but favors for the NHL. Fantastic drama.
I've never tweeted once in my life about hockey. That's, you know what happened there? Steve Levy broke into my house and stole my phone. That was not me. I have no idea what's going on right now. My daughter has always loved college hockey. That's a long-standing, understood family tradition. Once in a while,
Oh, there were more.
Let's not get into it. I'm going to watch tonight to appease all the hockey guys. Okay, I'm going to watch. You don't care if I watch. Buccigross doesn't care if I watch.
Oh, speaking of Buccigross, tweet. At Buccigross. The Herd just called me Buccigrass while backhand complimenting, quote, the hockey, end quote. Third fellow on-air talent to do that. Hashtag, they know who we mean.
I've never tweeted once in my life about hockey. All right, tomorrow I'll get outraged by high sticking. You happy now? I'll talk about delayed icing for a segment. God, I mean, you know, Booch and Levy and it's becoming a surly relationship. Booch is a great guy. That guy, you know what, man? You gotta love people who have great passion. That guy is so into it. The people that love hockey at this network, I mean, they're almost like conservative. They're like liberals in Texas. The most liberal people in the country are Texas liberals because they're surrounded by conservatives. The hockey fans here are the greatest fans because they're surrounded by non-hockey people. So their love and passion eclipses anything we love and are passionate about. Because there's so few like hockey diehards. The guys that are hockey diehards, they're like liberals in Texas. They're like, we got to defend our progressive nature because we're surrounded by conservatives, good or bad, and that's how hockey guys are here. Tomorrow in our 11:30 segment, Hartford Whaler Trivia. Pinch yourself. 2 for the road. The first Italian woman in space is now the world's first orbiting barista. Over the weekend, Samantha Cristoforetti fired up the first espresso machine ever in space. You know, I'm not sure if that's a big story, but I just got handed it. And McDonald's may be developing a taste for a new ingredient. Kale. The world's biggest burger chain says it's testing 2 breakfast bowls in Southern California. They're trying to increase business with the McDonald's Corporation. I had a kale salad yesterday. I think it's great. A lot of this high-end stuff like coconut water. Oh, come on. I've tried 9 different coconut waters. They're awful. You can't drink coconut water. I don't know how. Steve Weatherford, the punter for the Giants, probably can because he's got abs from like when people didn't eat carbs. But other than that, I can't drink coconut water. Kale? It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Check out The Herd with Colin Cowherd weekdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNradio.com, and on ESPNU. The Thundering Herd Podcast. 2 of baseball's best go head-to-head in interleague action when the Tigers head to St. Louis to face the Cardinals. That one is gone. The pregame at 7 Eastern, first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN and ESPN Radio.